Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be making a big, trancy, futuristic techno track in the style of Joyhauser, Inspector, and Pleasurecraft. If you want to hear the finished track, you can skip to the timestamp at the top of the description now. I'll give you a moment to do that. And yeah, so, as always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, everything that you just heard that I'm about to create and use in this video in the description on my Bandcamp. Make sure to check for that, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So, the first thing we're going to do here is get the kick. I've got a sample, and I'm going to create something. So, what we'll do is, I'm going to load that up, and let's just put in quarter notes. We're going to go to, let's do 128 BPM. That's pretty popular for this style. 128 BPM is a lot more than just big room house. But yeah, so, we'll put in quarter notes here. There we go, and then let's give this a bit of saturation. Alright, sounds good. And then to do the rumble, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two different layers. So we're going to call this punch, and we're going to call this rumble. I can't spell rumble today. There we go. And then on the rumble chain, we're going to make a rumble. So I'm going to keep the saturator on there, and we are going to get some delay. I might go for the dotted eighths like I had a second ago, but we're also going to have an amp. There we go, and then we're going to get a low pass filter to dial it back. And there it is, we have a rumble. Now obviously this rumble doesn't sound very good. We need to do some things to control it a little more. So the first thing we're going to do is get an EQ8 on there, and we're going to just cut it at 100 Hertz. Because that's typically where the kick is hitting. So this makes some room for that, and then we're also going to get a compressor and sidechain it to the dry kick, or to the punch I should say. So there we go, now it feels a little bit more like under control. And you can see it's not clipping anymore, which is cool. But cool, so then we'll put those in a group together, and we're going to process them as a group. Turn that down a little because we don't want to be clipping. I'm going to put a bit of drum bus on here. And we're going to get some EQ8. I'm going to take a moment and listen to this on my monitors as well, and then I'll kind of explain what I did. Okay, cool. So there's the kick. So just kind of took some time there. You can see I played around with the punch a little bit, but ultimately I went back to the saturator. But yeah, so we just got a bit of drum bus on there, gluing everything together. You guys who watch my videos know about this one for sure. And then I got some EQ on there. The EQ is really important. I talk about this a lot lately, but basically when you're using saturation and distortion and drum bus to fatten your sounds up, it's a good way to do it because you do get very fat and powerful sounds. However, they create a lot of like artifacts. Like saturation tends to make sounds a little bit more muddy, tends to add a little bit of more of that like low mid-range that you don't really want. So you just have to go and kind of clean that out. So that's what we have here. I have like this cutting out some low mid-range and then focusing the sound a little bit more by boosting the low end there in the end and then boosting this mid-range here. You may have noticed that. That's more for like the punch of the kick. So if I turn those points off, you can hear it just doesn't hit as hard like when I turn these on. Just has a little bit more like impact to it. But cool, it sounded pretty good. So we will name that kick. Alright, there we go. And then let's extend that out to 8 bars. There it is. And then I'll turn it down a little bit. There we go. Cool. So from here, we're going to make some synths. I'm going to try and come up with some like melodic ideas. This is typically how I will do this. Is like I start with getting a kick in there, and a lot of times, you know, I'll just keep it really simple, like just drag in a kick from a track I already made or something like that. But yeah, I like to get the kick in there at first and then kind of build the melodic stuff over that, because you'll see what I mean. It's like a very rhythmic style with what we're going to be doing melodically, so it helps to just have a kick in there as kind of like a baseline thing to hear. But cool, so I'm going to make a little art first here. I'm thinking something kind of dark and minor sounding. That's cool. Maybe give it a bit of chorus. Oh, let's do like that. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds cool. So this is a good example of like doing something really, really simple and just kind of getting the most mileage out of a very simple selection of notes. Like you can see here, this is literally just 3 notes. It's just F, the 9th, and the minor 3rd. Just F, G, and G sharp if we're in F minor, right? But by taking the Fs and putting them up there and then there, you know, it turns into something completely different. It really gives it a lot more depth. Also, I think I'm going to change the key of this to A minor. I think that's a little bit better. Well, cool. That sounds pretty tight. That has like a certain like tension to it. You know, that's what you want. Is you want something that sounds kind of tense and like, I don't want to say uneasy. This isn't like obviously the most industrial style of techno, but you want something that has like that kind of like darkness to it musically, I guess you could say. But cool, let's put a bit of saturation on that and make it louder and fatter. And I kind of like that getting all crunchy. I'm gonna copy that side chain on there from the rumble as well. But cool, sounding pretty good. So we definitely have the vibe set with this. I think I'm going to switch this delay to ping pong. So now this is a bit wider. You definitely want to be careful with this style. Like you don't want to have your track be too stereo because it still needs to work in mono. Every club system is in mono, and obviously this is techno, so you got to think about that. But to have something like this be a bit wider definitely works. I'm also going to try and put a little bit of redux on this. Alright, sounding pretty cool so far. From here, we're going to make a lead synth. I'm going to get, let's use wavetable for this one maybe. I might go for analog. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to use, let's actually use analog, I think. But I'm going to try and write some notes first. I'm going to make something kind of big and minor sounding, like I said, with the arp. That's cool. Let's make it a bit longer and see what we can do with that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Alright, nice. So let's give this some unison and make it bigger. Give some vibrato as well. We'll detune these oscillators. Yeah, that sounds cool. Alright, and then I'll process this. Let's put some drum bus on it. Drum bus is good on synths as well. As you guys know, I don't just use it on my drums and bass and stuff, but it's just a good way to make things sound really fat, like, no matter what it is. As you can hear. Cool, and then we'll put some EQ on that as well and cut out some low end. Might as well get that knocked out right away. Let's get some echo on there. We make all these notes a little bit staccato as well. Typically when I do like a lead like this where it's like like the quick 16th notes, I make them staccato, meaning like they don't touch each other, like this. And then you can hear a lot more space between those notes. And you can kind of tell that there's like that rhythm happening a little bit easier now, I feel like. Let's get that side chain as well. I'll just copy the side chain from the arp. Alright, sounds good. Let's go on the arp and cut out some low end. And these two things fit together well as well. Like, that's the thing you have to consider when you're making like multiple melodic things like this, especially multiple melodic things which are like kind of in your face. Like in this case, you know, if you just hear this arp and this kick together, like, that's already pretty much a vibe. The key to doing this is you just have to make sure that they fit together and just like really take your time and listen to them like this. And in the case of these two, I think they complement each other, so it's not so much of an issue. But you definitely have to be aware of that, like when you're doing this. But cool, let's add in some drums now. I have some hi-hats here. I think I'll start with those. Let's see this shaker, actually. Put in this one on the upbeat. So I'm just kind of filling the drums out here. Usually like to start from like the ground up, like with that shaker, get the and then add this on top. And then you can tell like it's starting to really feel like a track. I have like a few different hi-hats here as well. I think I'm gonna layer some. We could do, this is something I've actually been doing a bit recently. Kind of gives you a little bit more detail on your hi-hats. You could just have like one that's a little bit brighter, playing on every other upbeat like this. And you can hear it gives it kind of like a cool groove because you're getting that. And I'm also going to add in some white noise. This is a little trick I've been doing recently. This is like definitely some secret sauce, so to speak, when it comes to producing. But if you add a little white noise doing like this, like just playing on that upbeat there, like maybe every 4 bars or something, with a little bit of attack, you can hear it kind of like pulls it into that next part. And we can even delete that hi-hat there. That would be. You can hear what that's doing though. And what I'll even do is just move it back a little bit more, and then just give it more attack so it's more audible. We can even bring this hi-hat back in. But cool, it's sounding pretty nice. Let's get those hi-hats into a group together, and I'll start processing them as a group. I usually like to put a little bit of reverb on the hi-hats especially with this style, when you're at 128 BPM, you have a little bit more space between the notes than say like 132 or 135 or like even like 140 like in faster styles of techno. So you have a little bit more room to put like reverb and delay and stuff like that. And I definitely think it sounds good on the hi-hats. Alright, sounds good. Let's get a bit of a high pass on that. There we go. And then I have these other hi-hats here as well. I'm gonna use one of these. I like to put a lot of extra ones in the sample pack that like I may not even use these in the video, but if you go and buy the sample pack, which is in the description, you get all these extra samples to play with and make your own track out of this. Like you could just take this template that I'm about to make and then just put in all different samples and make it your own track, you know? I think that's a little too similar. That sounds cool. So we have the shaker playing straight 16ths. And this is on like every other one like that. Cool, but there we go. So you can see, even like with simple hi-hats like this, there's still a lot of detail work that goes into it, and you still need to like try and be precise. Like you never want to think of it as just like, oh, let me just get a shaker, put it in going 16 notes, let me get a hi-hat playing on the upbeats, and it's done. Like you always want to put in the work like this and really try to make it like professional and as good as it possibly can be. But cool, let's save this, or let's name this, I mean to say. Hi-hats, there we go. Alright, cool. So from here, I actually think that I'm going to make a second lead here really quick. I'm going to just take these notes, and we'll make something kind of similar, but I think I want to let this one kind of ring out a bit more. Kind of like that, and then we can actually just copy all this stuff down here, and then I'll make like a similar lead. This is like a small detail, but I think small details make a big difference. Yeah, there we go. Now it kind of feels like a bit of call and response. And with this lead, all it is it's just a saw wave and a square wave. The square wave's an octave and 7 semitones up. That gives you this kind of cool like brightness. I also have it detuned quite a bit. Cool, sounding pretty good. At this stage, I'm going to turn everything down because we're starting to get pretty loud. This is something you want to keep in mind also when you're making tracks. It's like, look at the master. Because see how this wasn't clipping, but it was almost there. Like, if I add one more element in here, it's going to start clipping. So if we just turn everything down, we can get it under control a little bit more. Nice. This is sounding really good at this stage. I'm going to close all of these. The next thing I'm going to add here is just a bit of percussion. I have all these different percussion sounds. And I'm going to just put these into a drum rack. I'm going to save that ride, actually. But yeah, I'm going to just put all these percussions into a drum rack here. And then we can just try and add something. I'm not going to go too crazy. Obviously, we don't want to take up too much space with these. But I'm just going to add something a little extra into here. You know, you don't want it to be just the hi-hats. It feels like this is a good track right now. but it does feel a little bit empty percussion-wise when it's only hi-hats. Well, that's cool. I'm gonna pitch that first percussion down, maybe. Let's get rid of that one. Cool, so there we go. So you can hear just adding a little bit more with the percussion, but not taking away from anything. It's just kind of like some little dark percussion that fits nicely into the background of this track. Let's give this some drum bus. There we go. That kind of has like a pitch to it, so I had to get it in key with the track. But sounds good. I'll put a little bit of delay on that as well. We'll do dotted eighth notes. Alright, just doing a bit of mixing here. At this stage, I think I'm going to start arranging this. I won't say this track is entirely like finished and ready to go just yet. Obviously, we still got to do a little bit more. There's still more elements to add as well. But this is everything we need to start arranging the track. Typically, this is the process that I will take. I'll make a little idea like this, like just kind of have fun with it. You know, I was obviously trying to keep the mix clean and trying to keep the mix good, but like not thinking too much about mixing, not thinking too much about like composition over the course of the track, just making a cool idea like this. And then once I have this cool idea, then we can take it and make a track around it. So I'm going to take this and cut it, and we're just going to paste it all over here. And my technique to start a track is I'll usually just grab one thing and just say like the track is going to start with this. So in this case, we'll use this kick, which is pretty much a no-brainer when we're making techno. I'll also use the shaker. Actually, let's have the shaker start there. Cool, and then in this intro, we'll have the kick be filtered up as well. So I'm going to get a high-pass filter. And we can just automate that to turn off. Okay, cool. So yeah, just got that little intro there. This is something I hear in a lot of techno tracks. I've done this a bunch. Basically, just for 16 bars, the kick is filtered up, and then here it cuts out. And then it comes back with the bass in there. The reason why I turned off this thing here, the speaker on, is just because if you don't with the rumble, it will like ring out. You can hear that do-do-do-do there, which... So yeah, small detail, but definitely something I like to keep an eye out for. So from there, we'll duplicate the shaker over. I'll get the hi-hats, like maybe just this one. We won't add that second open hi-hat just yet. And we can also add in that little white noise thing. I'll even put it like over here. Alright, sounding good. I'm going to move all of this stuff over a little bit more. But yeah, so the arrangements really come together. Again, we just grab one thing and get started. And usually the creative juices start flowing. A lot of times when people have a hard time with arrangements, I feel like it's just, sometimes it can be hard to just get that start and kind of like get going on the path. Like, they want to be on the path already to having an arranged track. This is how you do that. It's just, like I said, don't think about it. Just start putting stuff in. I'm going to get the arp as well. That'll start coming in about there. Let's just copy all this stuff over to here. And then what we'll do with this arp here is we're going to have it just slowly come in. So I'm going to get a low pass. Cool, and I'm also going to automate this to go up. There we go. So then when we get to that break, it'll be kind of filtered up a bit. Okay, cool. And then in the second half here, we will also add a little bit more with like the hi-hats. Like I'll add in this one and this one. And I think I'll bring in the percussion about there as well. I like doing it kind of like not in the most linear way. Like what I mean by this is like the hi-hats, a new thing basically comes in every 16 bars. Like we got this 16 bar stretch, this 16 bar stretch, this 16 bar stretch even. But then with this, it'll come in a matter of 8 bars because we have these 8 bars and then all of a sudden the percussion comes in here. So it's like stuff like that I feel like is what makes a very, like this is honestly pretty simple stuff, you know, it's just hi-hats and percussion. This is how you make hi-hats and percussion stay interesting over the course of like a minute and a half like this. It's just by doing stuff like that where you can never really expect exactly what's going to happen basically. Like that's something I would say I've definitely noticed, like listening to dance music, especially with like long mixes and just things like that. I always feel like the best tracks are the ones where like I can't expect what's about to come in next, if that makes any sense. So yeah, cool. From there, I'm going to add some rides actually. I have this ride cymbal. Pretty standard one. We'll maybe put that in here. And I usually put the ride inside the hi-hat group as well. It's in a similar frequency range. It's just a lot of high end, so. Let's put a little bit of chorus on that. Actually, I'm going to use a bit of echo. What we can do is unsync these two and just give them like a really fast time and then unlink them. Oh, there we go. We get a really wide stereo ride. And the thing there is like, it's not even just about having it be super wide and stereo. Like I said, it's this style of music. You want it to work in mono, but what this is going to do is it's going to make it so the hi-hat kind of sits in a different place in the mix. Like, whenever I put tracks like this up against reference tracks, That's something I always used to, at least before I realized this, have a hard time with, is like getting the ride to sit in that particular spot. And this is how you do it, is with the stereo image. Cool, and then I'm going to copy the hi-hats and percussion into the break here. And what we're going to do is have it just filtering down. This is a smoother way to transition it because it's like not completely just going away. But you're kind of like, you know, taking it out over time as opposed to just dropping it out there right at the end of the intro. Cool, and then we'll copy that onto the percussion as well. And I think I'm going to keep the kick going into here. We'll filter it up, and then I'm going to put that same low pass on the kick as well, actually. And I'm also going to automate the high pass on the kick. So everything is really just like disappearing there, essentially. I'm also going to automate the side chain on that ARP to turn off in the break here. This is what will like really signify like, oh, this is the break, because all of a sudden we go from here, where you can hear it being side chain. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tease the leads a little bit, like during the break, like maybe we could do kind of like this. Just something like that, where it's like I said, teasing it and just sort of giving you like a taste of it without giving away the whole thing. But this is a nice way to do it. You want to kind of like evolve your elements. This is actually the remix that I just dropped yesterday, my Better Off Alone remix. This is what I did in there very heavily. It's like taking the lead and using the same notes. Like, we're not going to write a new part for this. We're going to use the same notes, but just kind of like I said, creatively teasing it. So you're not just giving away the whole thing, but you're getting a little bit of it, and then when it comes in later, it'll feel like you got, like I said, like a taste of it. It'll feel a little bit more familiar, if that makes any sense. Alright, here we'll give it a little bit of a different detail. There we go. And then I'll color the different parts differently. So like this one will be that shade of green. This one will all be that shade of orange. And then this part will be blue. So this is how we can know which part is which. I'm gonna put those in a group together as well. And then we're just gonna put a low pass filter building them up. So we'll take like just through here. Cool, so now I'm going to work on this break and get it going into the drop nicely. We get the art filtering out there. Ah, the kick is filtered down there. Okay, just turn that off. This is the kind of stuff you have to keep in mind, like when you're using all these filters, sometimes you close it and then you don't realize, you're like, oh, why can't I hear the kick? I'm gonna get that other open hi-hat that's playing on every other upbeat. Alright, sounding pretty good. So you can see how I did that there. Just kind of like coming back in from the break. You know, we don't want to have the most intensity. We want it to be a little bit more chilled out where it's just a kick and the lead. So I have that art filtering down when it comes in, just a kick and lead. Then we get like a little bit of hi-hats. And then we get everything. And the art starts building up a little as well. Cool, so at this stage, I'm going to do some extra stuff to just kind of finish it up. I'm going to add some automation with these leads a bit. Like, we could definitely automate the frequency of the filters, even if it's just like this, just kind of moving randomly like this. I think it'll give the sounds a bit more motion, kind of bring them to life a bit. And I'm not moving them in this intro here just because, I mean, there the lead is so sparse, like, it doesn't really matter as much. But here, where it's obviously like the lead and kind of the main thing that we're hearing, you know, we definitely want to make sure that it doesn't get too boring. Alright, sounding good. I'm also going to add this in the break. So I'm going to just go on the master and get a utility. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it down -3 on the gain. And then we're going to just automate this to come on during the break. So this is a trick. I've used this in videos a bit before. This is something that's done a lot in not just techno. I do this a lot in my techno tracks. A lot of people do this in the house. Pretty much any style of dance music, people do this where you need to like build tension. What it's doing is it's turning the entire track down -3 dB during the break. You can hear it's not that noticeable, especially when you have effects and stuff. But then when you come back here, all of a sudden it hits a lot harder. So it's essentially just making things a little bit quieter during the break, and then like I said, it's going to hit a lot harder when the drop comes back. And the thing is also is that right now this is making it quieter. When we have mastering stuff on here like a saturator, a compressor, or a limiter, those are all going to just make it so this utility is really just like hitting those a little bit less hard rather than like turning the volume down, if that makes any sense. You'll see what I mean when we get to mastering. But yeah, that's definitely a good technique. I'm also going to make a little bass stab for this part. I'm going to get analog. And we can just make something with like some unison. Like we'll turn the unison on. Turn it up. We'll detune these oscillators. There we go, and then we'll just like distort that a bunch. Nice. Yeah, just something simple, just to kind of come in and just give us a little. There. Let's not use that chorus actually. I'll put a little bit of drum bass on it to fatten it up. Nice. And then we'll just get some EQ as well. Kind of shape the sound. Okay, cool. And so that's literally just going to play like a quick and just ring out until it fades out. You know, it just gives us something in that break there to keep the low end. It's like we need to round out the track, right? Like when you have this playing, it's very well rounded because we have a bass and the kick. You know, we have all the instruments, we have all that kind of stuff. But here, you just have these leads, so you want something to be like having that low end. A lot of times I find in the club when you have a part like this, if you don't have some low end to it, people just kind of start talking and like, it doesn't really feel like a track is playing, it just kind of feels like some noise is playing, and then all of a sudden this comes. And it's like, oh, there's the track. But yeah, you gotta watch out for that. So that's why I added this. And I'll typically have something like this in my tracks. I'm also going to do a few parts where the kick cuts out, like right here, for example. We could just do a quick quarter note cutout, and then I'll just automate this to turn off there. And again, we just keep doing that because otherwise you hear the rumble ringing out during that part too much. We could also do definitely one here. And I'll even have the kick filter up there right at the start of that. And we'll put a little there. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to make here is I'm going to make a big white noise riser dropper thing. We're going to just make a long note here with operator. I'm going to switch it to white noise or noise white. Let's actually make this even longer actually. Like we'll make it start there. And then I'm just going to have this during the break and the drop building and falling and doing like little sweeps. So we'll get a bandpass filter on here, and we'll just automate that to go up here. And then drop down there. And then build up there. I'm going to side chain that a little as well. There we go. And I also like to cut out some low end on this because it can tend to have some nasty low end in there. We'll put some reverb on it as well. And I'm going to put a little bit of flanger on it just to give it something a little bit different. This is nice to make it so it's not just like basic white noise. You can hear what that's adding. And I'm also going to put one here, where it'll just go when all this new stuff comes in here. You can see also we have two different notes for the white noise. That doesn't really matter. You know, it's just white noise. It's like every note at once. I'm pretty sure it's how white noise works. Yeah, there we go. Cool, so at this stage, I'm going to take my headphones off actually and mix this a little bit on my monitors, just kind of like give it that final mix down, really clean it up a little bit. Okay, cool. So we got the mix down. You can see I was just going through, kind of finalizing things, cleaning everything up. I did add one element. This was something that I noticed when I was doing the mix that I just felt was kind of missing, was the string. Just basically like, you know, some kind of a drone or like a sound that's just playing like over top of everything. I feel like was what we needed to fill this breakout. So that's a pretty simple sound. It's just a string that I had actually in the sample pack for this video. We got, yeah, it's just there. I put it into a simpler. You can see I've got the loop on and I've got the fade. We got some chorus, bit of reverb, and then I have this low pass filter. This just brings it in when the break comes and then takes it out right at the end of the track. But yeah, so the mix is sounding pretty good now. At this stage, it is time for mastering. So we're gonna go to the loudest part of the track, which is right here. And I'm going to start out right now just by putting a bit of EQ8 on the master. We are going to boost the low end a bit, cut the low mid-range right about there, and then we're going to boost the high end a bit. And then we're going to turn this down a little because this tends to make things a bit loud. But cool, so here's before this, and then after it. So you can hear it's really helping to focus the mix and just get it sounding more like I said, more focused on the elements that we want. which is like the bass and the kick, the sharpness of the hi-hats, and then just kind of cleaning out that low mid-range to make everything less muddy. From there, we're going to get a bit of saturation. I'm going to put the output down -3, put the drive up +4. So you can hear what this is doing when I turn it off and turn it on. It's subtle. You don't want to use a whole lot, but essentially what saturation does is it's like how we put the kick and the rumble in a group and saturate them together. It's gluing those together. That's what it's doing with this overall track. It's gluing everything together. If I get another saturator here and just turn this drive way up. There you go. Obviously, that sounds crazy. But you can hear that effect in full force. It's just like completely just taking everything, making it sound like one thing. That is what this is doing, but just to a much smaller degree. And it really helps, like, in that subtle way for making the overall track sound more full and more professional. From there, we're going to get a compressor. I'm going to turn off makeup gain. We're going to turn up the attack. And then we'll just turn the threshold down a little. Cool, so you can hear this is balancing out the mix a bit more. When I turn it off, and then when I turn it on, you can hear when it's on, everything just has a lot more even place in the mix. It feels like the volume levels are more evened out. The key to this is just not compressing too much. Like, we're just compressing enough to where everything that's coming into it is still getting, like, flattened out a little bit, but it's more like it's pushing the volumes closer together than it is, like, just squashing them together. And part of the key to this is turning that ratio down. That's essentially just, like, the amount of compression, like how strong it's compressing the sound. And then the attack here is also really important. The attack is how long it takes for the compression to kick in. So we have like a kick, for example. You can see with the kick, you can see this transient over here. What happens is if you don't turn up the attack on the compressor, you're going to compress the transient. The transient is the part right at the start of the sound. That's like the hit. Like if I get rid of that, you can hear. It's just like, it's really soft. This is what gives it the attack of the sound. So if we get rid of that and if we flatten that out with the compressor, it's not going to be good. But if you turn up the attack, you can essentially make it take a little bit longer to kick in. So you'll be compressing the body of the sound over here without compressing the transient. And this is on everything. So it's a good technique when you're trying to compress your master like this. Cool. And then the last thing I'm going to do here is we're just going to get a limiter, and I'm going to turn this up to about there. It's a bit heavy, but you can hear this just turns the track up, gets it up to 0 dB, and then pushes it a little bit harder. I used to just put it up until it was hitting 0 dB, but I found that a lot of reference tracks I was putting my masters up against were hitting a lot harder. Like if you listen to some of my tracks that I've released, actually, they don't hit as hard as a lot of other tracks. And it's because of this, it's because of the mastering. You actually do want to boost this limiter up a little bit more. Not just so it's hitting 0 dB, like this will be just hitting 0 dB. You want to push it a little bit more like that. Because you get that extra, like, oomph out of it. We could even maybe do like there. Yeah, and there's still movement in the master as well. And if you look at reference tracks in the style, you'll see that a lot of them have about that much movement in the master when all is said and done. But awesome, so there it is. We went through and made a full track in the style. I'm actually really proud of this one. This is really cool. I'm going to play the full track from start to finish. Let's hear everything that we just made. quick on the fly mixing there. Alright, so there it is. We went from scratch and built up this whole track. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and everything that you just heard in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.